पर हरम फातिमा ज़हरा के प्यारो अलविदा। करबला की खाक को सौंपा तुम्हें अर्श आज़म के सितारो अलविदा। खबर पर बेटों की ज़ैनब ने कहा माँ वतन जाती हो प्यारो अलविदा। खबर से आवाज़ देते हैं हुसैन लो बहन ज़ैनब सिधारो अलविदा। अरबाई के सोगवारो सल्लु अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद। Now I request Sayyid to respectfully come and recite the majlis. Durud bar Muhammad wa ale Muhammad.
يا علي أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته المنتجبين. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا ابن رسول الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة. غريب مظلوم شهيد كربلاء، يا ليتنا يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذ أوى الفتية إلى الكهف فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. The most important years in the lives of any human being are the years of youth. When you're a youth, these years are your foundation. They build you as a person. They build your character. They build your personality. And they have much influence on who you will be in the future as an adult. At the end of the day, the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. They are the mothers and the fathers and the elders of this community. When you see a youth and their teens, don't look at them as if they're children or that they're young. See that tomorrow they are the leaders of this community. They are the ones that will lead the name of Islam in this country, in this nation. They are the future leaders. The Quran, my dear brothers and sisters, gives us examples of righteous youth. Youth that were leaders. Youth that took the initiative. They didn't wait for someone to tell them, here's the torch, now you may pass on the torch. No. They took the initiative. They were natural leaders. The Quran gives us several examples. For example, Ibrahim alayhi salam. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi wa ala nabiyyina afdalus salati wassalam. Ibrahim was 14 years old when he broke the idols of his community. He went to the local temple and he saw idols all around. Idols that don't speak, don't move, don't give life, don't give death. But a 14-year-old Ibrahim had the common sense and reason to know that these were not gods. They were not lords. So they went on a vacation, they went outside of the city. He grabbed an axe and he started breaking all of them. And then he put the axe on the biggest idol. When they came back, they asked, who broke our idols, our gods? The answer was, قَالُوا سَمِعْنَا فَتًى. We heard of a teenager, feta. Ibrahim was not an adult. He was not a 30-year-old man or a 50-year-old man. He was not a grandfather or even a father. He was a youth, a teenager. قَالُوا سَمِعْنَا فَتًى يَذْكُرُهُمْ يُقَالُ لَهُ Ibrahim. We've heard of a teenager that spoke ill of our idols. His name is Ibrahim. قالوا أأنت فعلت هذا بآلهتنا يا إبراهيم. They brought him. They put him on court. Did you do this to our idols? But listen to the witty answer of Ibrahim. قال بل فعله كبيرهم هذا. Don't you see the axe on the neck of the biggest idol? He's the one that did it. هذا فاسألوهم إن كانوا ينطقون. Ask him if he can speak. Ask. Of course, he was trying to send a message that this idol can't even move. How can this idol break the other idols because he doesn't move? Hence, why should he be worshipped? A teenager at the age of 14. His son Ismail was a teenager when he was willing to be sacrificed for the sake of Islam. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ قَالَ يَا بُنَيْ. Ibrahim told his son Ismail that I see in my dream that I'm slaughtering you. إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ فَانظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. What do you say, my son? I see in my dream, and we know that the dreams of prophets are revelations. They are commands from Allah Azza wa Jal. So what do you say? I see in my dream that I'm slaughtering you. قَالَ يَا أَبَتِ فَعَلْ مَا تُؤْمَرْ. My Lord, do as you're ordered. Do not delay the command of Allah. افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. You will find me inshallah amongst the patient. I will be patient. Ismail was a young boy. He was a teenager, yet he surrendered to the command of Allah Azza wa Jal. And before that, the holiest house on the face of this planet. What's the holiest place? The Kaaba. The Kaaba was built by two individuals, a man and a teenager. Ibrahim alayhi salam and his teenage son. Imagine a teenager had the opportunity to participate in the building of the greatest house on earth. وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلُ. Ibrahim raised the foundation because the foundation was laid for the Kaaba, it was laid by Adam alayhi salam. Ibrahim came and raised the foundation. وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلُ رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Oh Allah, accept what we've done. The Quran tells us, gives us an example of a youth that had desires just like ordinary youth, but this person did not allow his desires to overcome him, and that was Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf, who was a teenager, who was seduced by the wife of Aziz Misr, the one whom he was staying in her house. She seduced him, yet this teenager preferred to go to prison instead of falling in the trap of shaitan. قال رب السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه. He was willing to go to prison and jail and not disobey Allah Azza wa Jal. The Quran also gives us the example of Ahlul Kahf, the people of the cave. We have an entire chapter called Surah Al-Kahf. It's dedicated to a couple of youth. إِذْ أَوَى الْفِتْيَةُ إِلَى الْكَهْفِ. Fitya, or teenagers, below 20. They left the city. Why? Because there was a tyrant, there was tyranny, and there was oppression. They left the city and they went somewhere else in objection, in rebellion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immortalizes these youth. إذ أوى الفتية إلى الكهف فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. In another verse Allah says إنهم فتية آمنوا بربهم. There's an emphasis, 2 verses emphasize that the people of the cave were youth. They were teenagers. They were not older than 20 years of age. My dear brothers and sisters, this is a message from the Holy Quran. This is a message to all youth around the world that you too can become leaders if you take the initiative. You too can deliver a message. You too can make history and be remembered for thousands of years if you take the initiative. If you have a strong will, if you're dedicated to your faith, you too will be immortalized. These were just some examples that the Quran gives us. There are many other examples. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The years of youth, my dear brothers and sisters, they have 3 qualities, 3 main qualities that all youth have. Number 1, flexibility. As a youth, you can change your habits. You can learn new habits, what we talked about yesterday. Didn't we say that bad habits die hard? And a habit is very difficult to get rid of? But if you're a youth, no, it's very easy. It's very easy to get rid of bad habits and bad ideas. You can pick up new qualities. You can change to the good. But when you're older, it's difficult to change. And I gave the example of a tree. An old tree is hard to break down. You can't maneuver a tree that's been there for 20, 30 years. But if a tree that you just planted, you could maneuver in any way that you'd like. Youth can change, they're flexible. They can quickly give up ideas and pick up new ideas. That's something very easy for them to do. But when you're old, when you've reached your prime, and an idea has lived with you for so many years, it's very difficult to give up. For example, racism. And we talked about this earlier as well. Racism exists in our communities. For the elders, it's difficult to give up racist beliefs and ideas. But ask our youth, no. Racism is not embedded in their culture because they were easily flexible. They could have changed. For them, it's not a problem. Youth can change. They're very flexible. They're like mold, right? They're molded easily. They're like Play-Doh. With Play-Doh, you could make whatever you want as long as it hasn't gone cold and stiff. This is how youth are. I was telling some brothers 2 days ago that Iraq, right now, there's millions of people in Iraq. And you see beautiful scenes. Scenes of generosity, all in the name of Imam al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Whenever you go to a person's home and you're the guest and that person's the host, it is the guest that thanks the host, correct? You thank them, thank you for the meal, thank you for your hospitality, except when you go to Karbala. It is the host that thanks the guest. The host says, thank you for coming to my mawqib. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve Imam Hussein through you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to host you, O Za'ir of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You see this? But unfortunately, Iraq is not always all peaceful. There were times where Iraq has seen the worst of days. Only a month ago, we saw the worst of days, inner killing. And unfortunately, it was Shi'i killing. It wasn't Shi'i Sunni, it wasn't Shi'i Kurdi, it was Shi'i killing. I was telling some brothers and sisters that the problem, I believe, that an entire generation has to leave. And a new generation comes. Because this generation we've lost hope in. And this current generation we've lost hope in. We have hope in the new generation and the youth. Perhaps they can come and put away these ideas. For example, of taking bribes. In a lot of our countries, there's bribery. There's bribes. There's blackmail. Getting a political position is not based on merit, but it's on who you know, and who's your relative, and who's your friend. Hopefully, the new generation will understand that these are ideas that need to be put aside, and we build a new country. This is why, my dear friends, there's an emphasis on youth, on teaching them, nurturing them, caring for them, monitoring them, inspiring them, and motivating them, to protect them intellectually and culturally. This is a responsibility on our shoulders, my shoulders, your shoulders. What have we done for the youth? Do we wait for others to come and snatch them from us? Would we allow someone to kidnap our children? Of course not. Who would allow someone to kidnap their child? But you know what? Our children are being kidnapped. They're not physically being kidnapped, but their minds are being kidnapped. They're being brainwashed. At school, and I will talk about this in a minute. At school, when they go, their minds are being brainwashed. When they watch TV, Netflix, even the movies, they're brainwashing our children. They're stealing their minds and their hearts. While we sit back, relax, and we don't say anything. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, عَلَيْكَ بِالْحَدَث فَإِنَّهُمْ أَسْرَعُ إِلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Take care of the youth because they are the quickest to everything. Look at the movements, world movements. If you read about communism in Iraq, maybe some of the brothers and sisters they remember, or even in Iran. Who was the first to join the Communist Party? Who? The youth. And in Iran, same thing. It was the youth to join the Communist Party. The Arab Socialist Party or the Arab Nationalist Party, who was the first to join? Who was most enthusiastic? Remember Jamal Abdel Nasser and the Arab Nationalist movement? Who was the first to join? The youth. Any movement, whether good or bad, positive or negative, the first to enlist are whom? The elders? It is the youth. The youth are the first to enlist. That's why we have to make sure we get there first. That they enlist in our lists, in our mosques, in our majalis, before others get to them. Look at what Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says. بادروا أحداثكم بالحديث قبل أن يسبقكم إليهم المرجئة. Teach your children the ahadith of Ahlulbayt. Quickly, بادروا. Time is running out. Time is running out. We don't have time. Oh, inshallah, next year we'll think of opening a full-time school. Maybe if not next year, the year after that, we'll thinking of sending our kids to a youth camp in Michigan or someone else. No. You're not guaranteed that you will have your youth till next year or the next summer. Because there's dangers from all sides. I'm not talking about physical danger. No, inshallah, may Allah protect all of your youth. May they always be protected. But there are spiritual dangers. There are social dangers. Let me give you a couple of examples. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. What's happening today in schools, my dear brothers and sisters? Isn't there talk of gender identity? Aren't they teaching our children that you can be a man, or you could be a woman, or you could be neither? Neither a man, neither a woman. The choice is yours. In fact, in the morning you could be a man, in the evening you could be a woman. The next day you're neither. The day after that you're both. And they brainwash our kids that you don't have to apply, you don't have to bind yourself to a specific gender, and your sex is different from your gender. Your sex is given to you at birth. You're either a male or a female. But a man and a woman, no, this is what society tells you. Society tells us how men should behave and how women should behave. Oh, I see. If that's the case, then how come you keep on switching between men and women? In the morning, you want to wear a suit. In the evening, you want to become a woman and wear a skirt. Hold on a second. Who told women to wear skirts? Wasn't it society? I thought you said it's all from society. It's society that tells how men and women should behave. How come you succumb to that? And this is chaos, my dear friends. This is chaos. We need to teach our children this because they are being brainwashed at schools. We have to rescue them before others get to them. This is chaos. They say that gender is non-binary. You get to choose. It's up to you. It depends on how you feel. Your sex is given to you at birth, but gender is your identity. How you choose, what you choose. Okay, طيب. I choose to be Pakistani. What do you say? Will anyone give me a Pakistani citizenship? I'd love to, by the way. I would love to. Or I feel like I'm German today. The next day I feel I'm Italian. What do you say? I'm Italian? Or I become a German? Because I feel like one. How about age? Let alone leave nationality. How about age? I feel like I'm 20 years old. Does that make me 20 years old? Or a 20 years old feels like they're 40 years old. Are they entitled to get what 40-year-old people get? This is chaos. This is chaos. And they want us to accept this. One of the reasons is that they want people to accept these ideas so that the ruling class, their foreign policy, whatever they want to do, they get to do. As long as people are busy with discovering their gender. Today they're a male. Next day they're a female. This is nonsense. This is ridiculous. And they're coming to our children, my sons and your daughters. We have to be equipped. Another thing, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. There's another issue, my dear friends. There's another issue. And this can be very dangerous, very, very dangerous. And I want you to listen to me carefully. The desensitization of certain sexual behavior, right? You see, you go in the movies, you watch a movie, and now you see a man with a man, and it's normal. There's a relationship between a man and a man, or a woman with a woman, and it's becoming normal. And dare you speak out? How dare you speak out? You become homophobic. No, this is my faith. This is my religion. My religion tells me that what's normal, what's acceptable is when a man and a woman, they unite in marriage. This is the natural thing. This is the natural thing. This is the biological thing that Allah wants, that God wants, and it's biology. Imagine if the entire world becomes the opposite. What would happen? What would happen? In 60 years, we'd all go extinct. Correct or not? In 60 years, the entire world will go extinct. Imagine if men with men and women with women. 60 years, everyone's gone. That tells you that this is not natural because it will lead to the extinction of life. But you see, they're coming to the minds of our children, my kids and your kids. How? Through Disney movies, through the Avengers. Avengers, superheroes. Who doesn't like superheroes? All kids like superheroes, but they put it in somewhere, in the movie, in the cartoon. You can't even take your kids to watch a superheroes movie. Where is this world going to? That's why, my dear friends, we have to be very careful. I'm not saying pack your bags and go. No, 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 no. No, you don't need to pack your bags. Because this sort of danger, this is global. Today it's in America, tomorrow it will be in Iraq, guaranteed. Give it 5 more years, this will reach Iraq. Give it 6 more years, it'll reach Pakistan. Give it 7 more years, it'll reach Kuwait, if it hasn't already reached. So the solution is not that I pack my bags and I take my wife and kids and I go back home, because it will follow me. It'll chase me. Like, imagine running away from the coronavirus. You can't run away from the coronavirus. Remember 2 years ago? Was there a country that was safe from the coronavirus? Impossible. It'll follow you wherever you go. The solution is that we equip ourselves and we teach our children. Baba, listen to me. What you see on TV, this is incorrect. This is not what Allah wants. This is not what the Quran wants. This is not what biology wants. This is not natural. We teach them. We educate them. That's the solution. The solution is by having a full-time Islamic school, or at least a weekend school on Saturday and Sunday. Otherwise, my dear friends, we will lose our children. We will lose our children. A third point. وَصَلُّوا عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِ مُحَمَّدٍ. A third point, my dear friends. Social media. Social media can be very dangerous. TikTok. Our children, they all have TikTok. Our teenagers, they all have TikTok. First of all, what does the social media do? Being on TikTok, what does it do? Number one, it gives you a short attention span. Why? Because it's these reels, and you're flipping through, they're 30 seconds. 30 seconds, 40 seconds. So these children, they develop short attention spans. They can't handle a lecture for 1 hour like my lectures, right? That I go for an hour, 50 minutes. They don't have the attention span. They get bored. Because TikTok teaches them that every 30 seconds, it's a new clip, new video, new music. This is one. Two, you don't know what they put in there. It's music, it's dancing, it's all sorts of behavior. They're indoctrinating our children through TikTok in our homes. They may be sitting in their bedrooms. Today, shaitan isn't looking out in the streets. Before, we'd have to protect our children from going outside. Don't talk to the wrong friends. Beware of drugs, drug dealers, gangs. Today, shaitan is in our homes, in their bedrooms, on their phones. They're scrolling through. This is a problem. This is a problem. What do we do? What do we do? This is a challenge. Also, my dear friends, I don't think that the solution is to tell our children to delete TikTok. No, that's not a solution. Because today it's TikTok, tomorrow it's going to be something else. You name it, fill in the blank. Before, it was Facebook, and then Instagram, and then TikTok. In 2 years, there's going to be something else, and then something else. What are you going to do? Delete, delete, delete? You can't. You can't. What we can do is that we could put content on TikTok. At least we equalize the balance. Put Islamic content. If at least they listen to one song, they also listen to one nasheed, one latmiya, one short clip by a speech, a scholar, a alim, a marja. We fill it in there. The same way that they filled TikTok with junk, we fill it with good things. That's the only solution. Otherwise, to say, no, I'm going to have my kids delete it. How much do you want to combat? You'll delete it for a month, but next month, you won't be able to. There's peer pressure. بادروا أحداثكم بالحديث قبل أن يسبقكم إليهم المرجئة. We have to be careful before others get to our children. Let's take care of them. Let's nurture them. Our kids, our children, they are gifts from Allah Azza wa Jalla. Let's take care of them. They are our treasures. They're worth millions. They're worth millions. What good is it if I own billions of dollars, but I lose one son or my daughter? If I lose a son or a daughter to this movement or that movement or to gender identity, or what good is it? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So let's come back. The first quality is flexibility. You see, youth, they build their future in these years. Their future is built by their education, the akhlaq that they're taught, the majalis that they attend. It builds their foundation. And when there's what's the most important part to any building? It's the foundation. You could have the nicest building, but the foundation is shaky. You risk losing that foundation. You risk losing that building. The Quran says, أَفَمَنْ أَسَّسَ بُنْيَانُهُ عَلَى تَقْوَى مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرَضْوَانٍ خَيْرٌ أَمْ مَنْ أَسَّسَ بُنْيَانُهُ عَلَى شَفَا جُرُفٍ هَارٍ فَانْهَارَ بِهِ فِي نَارِ جَهَنَّمَ. It's better to have a foundation based on piety and righteousness, because that foundation will last. That building will last. And character building. If a person's foundation, our youth years are built upon piety, righteousness, good education, good akhlaq, it will last. And hence, we see that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that a person will be asked about 5 things on the Day of Judgment, and one of them, وَعَنْ شَبَابِهِ فِيمَ أَبْلَاهُ لا تزل قدم عبد يوم القيامة حتى يسأل عن 5 وعن شبابه فيما أبلاه. The first thing that will be asked on the Day of Judgment, your youth, how did you spend it? How did you spend it? On Instagram, 14 hours a day, checking out this story and this post of this celebrity, of this. Don't be fooled, my dear friends. There's a lot of our youth that are fooled by these celebrities. They're on trips, they're having a good time, they're smiling, they're in the best places, but believe me, they lead miserable lives. This is just a facade. This is just for you. This is for us. For us to think that they're happy. Look at these celebrities. They're in the Maldives. Look at them. They're smiling, they're happy. Look at this couple, they're so happy. But do you know how many fights occur after that picture and before that picture? This is a facade. Let's not waste our time on Instagram. The amount of hours that we put on these social media of reading posts, I could read a book. I could finish an entire book in a week. Do we read? Do we teach our children, our youth to read? There's so many books out there. I remember when I was growing up, I grew up here in America. When I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of books in English to read. The sources were limited. We had a couple, and unfortunately, there were bad translations. The translations were very poor. I didn't have a lot of options. My age, my generation, we didn't have a lot of options. Today, you have so many options. Books written in English on Islam, on Shi'ism, on the Ahlulbayt. Read. Let's encourage our youth to read. Not Instagram posts, but books, articles. There's a wealth of information out there. The second quality, my dear friends, is rebellion. Rebellion. One of the qualities of youth, especially when they're transforming, when they become 13, 14, 15, when they transform, there's rebellion. Because when they're younger, we're used to them being obedient. Now that they're older, now they've become rebellious. They don't accept everything that we tell them, all the ideas that we tell them, everything that we tell them to do. No. Now they start to ask questions. Why? Why do I have to go to the mosque and hear that boring Sayyid speak for an hour? Tell me, why? Why do I have to eat halal food? Why do I have to wear hijab? They become rebellious. What do? We become rebellious as well, and we try to shove it down their throat. No. This is a mistake. Let them be. We have to be accommodating to these youth. We have to understand them that they're going from one phase to another, from obedience to rebellion. They're going through a lot of changes, hormonal changes, psychological changes, mental changes. And there's already pressure on them. There's pressure from school. There's pressure from society for them to adapt, for them to become American, for them to become cool. And listen, we are American. We're part of America. This is America. This is America. America is being Iraqi and Pakistani and Iranian and Indian. And this is America. This is the melting pot. America is what? Just the white race? No. Where did they come from? People like Trump. They're the real Americans, and we're not Americans? No. We're more American than Trump is, because we accept ideals that he doesn't. So there's already pressure on them to adapt. There's an identity crisis. Who am I? Am I Iraqi or am I an American? Am I a Muslim? What am I? We have to be careful. Don't pressure the youth. Accommodate them. Be accommodating. Be understanding that they're going through a phase. Don't get angry. Be tolerant of them. Wait. They'll grow up and they'll learn. They'll learn. This is number 3. Number 2. Number 3, youth have ambitions. They have goals. They have aspirations. The difference between a youth and an elderly are like two passengers at the airport. Have you seen a passenger that just arrives? Their flight just landed from a very long journey. Alhamdulillah, I'm home. I got home. I got to see the world. I got to go on a journey. Now I get to come home and rest. This is how the elderly are. The youth are like a passenger that is just about to fly, just about to take off from Columbus Airport, to go on a journey, to see the world. They have the desire to explore, to experience, to see, to learn, to discover. That's the difference. They have ambitions. Our youth have ambitions. They're just starting their life. Some of us are concluding, or we've seen everything. We've gained a lot of experience, and now we're reflecting on our experiences. Our youth are just beginning to experience. They're beginning to discover, and we have to become accommodating as well. My dear friends, what is our responsibility towards youth? Number 1, we have to give them opportunities. We have to give them opportunities. I see a lot of Islamic centers across the U.S. and Europe. Youth are missing. They're missing from the mosques. Our mosques do not cater to the youth, either because of language. There's a language barrier, either because the Maulana speaks in Arabic or in Urdu or in Farsi or the native language, and our children, they don't speak the native language. Or because the lecture is irrelevant, you don't find any relevance to the lecture. Or because we are not giving them leadership roles. We want youth only to fill the hall, that's it. But we call the shots. We tell them what to do. We want youth to pick up chairs, to pick up the bottles of water, to clean up. But can they have a say in the mosque? How the mosque is run? How to run the majlis? Which speaker to bring? No. You don't speak. You don't get to speak. You only get to work. And that's why a lot of them, alhamdulillah, this is not the case here in this beautiful community of Columbus, Ohio. But there are other communities where you see the mosque is empty of youth. We haven't given the opportunity to lead. Rasulullah gave the opportunity to youth to lead. Usama bin Zayd was 17 years old. Rasulullah made him the commander of an army. And the top Sahaba, they were under him. Usama bin Zayd. And his father, Zayd, before him. They were youth. Rasulullah gave them responsibilities to lead armies. 2, we should not force our youth to accept our culture. You know, I hear a lot of parents, they say, you know what, when I was your age, do you know how my father used to smack me every day? Listen, you don't live in Iraq anymore. This is not Lahore, Pakistan. This is America. This is a different culture. You can't base your children on your culture and how you grew up. This is a mistake. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi afdal as-salatu was-salam, he says, لا تكرهوا أبناءكم على عاداتكم فإنهم خلقوا لزمان غير زمانكم. Do not force your children to accept your habits, your customs, your culture, because they were created for a time different than your time. And indeed, all of us, most of us, were immigrants. We're immigrants. Our children were born here. We suffered a lot. We had to deal with a lot. Doesn't mean that our children have to suffer with us. Just because I suffered back home where I was born and I had to migrate and I had to adapt and Just because I saw challenges, it doesn't mean that our children have to see the same challenges. In fact, they have a different kind of challenge. Living in this country is a challenge. Being a good Muslim in this country is a challenge. That's a challenge of itself. Let's be understanding of our youth, right? We have to help them reach their goals. Youth need mentors. They need someone to inspire them, to motivate them, not to speak to them condescendingly, to tell them what to do. No, but to inspire, but to motivate. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, وَإِنَّمَا قَلْبُ الْحَدَثِ كَالْأَرْضِ الْخَالِيَةِ. I recited this last night. مَا أُلْقِيَ فِيهَا مِنْ شَيْءٍ قَبِلَهِ. Youth are like a fertile land. Anything that you put, they'll accept. They'll accept. They wait for someone to motivate them, to inspire them. They're different from the elderly. The elderly, they've heard everything. These majalis, they've heard. But the youth, they look for inspiration. The hadith says regarding our youth, our children, دع ابنك يلعب سبعا وأدبه سبعا واصحبه سبعا. That leave your child for 7 years to play. To play. Let children play for the first 7 years. And then for 7 years, teach them, motivate them, inspire them, educate them. And then for 7 years, take them with you wherever you go. A father takes his children wherever they go. A mother takes her daughters wherever they go. Today we have a habit, wherever adults go, they keep their children at home. No, you don't need to come with me. Why? Take your son with you. You go to a majlis, take him. You go to a funeral, take him. You go to a wedding, take him. Let them learn. Let them learn adab. Let them learn. There's so much to learn by example. You see, the middle 7 years is by educating them by words. But the third 7 years is teaching them by example. I take my son and daughter with me where I go and I teach them by example. Having them play for the first 7 years is important. This is important. It's natural for children to play. Because if they don't get to play when they're children, that desire to play will stay with them until they're old. Until they're old. They have the desire to play. You see a 70-year-old driving a Lamborghini, driving a sports car. There's something wrong there. There's something wrong because he didn't get a chance to have fun when he was a kid. Now that he's old, now that he's 70 years old, he wants to drive a Lamborghini. There's a problem here. Let them play. This is something natural. And then after that, we teach them. We teach them. خير ما يورث الآباء للأبناء الأدب. The hadith says, ولولا المربي لما عرفت ربي. The best thing that we could give to our children and pass on to them is not our estates, not our cash and cars and lands, no, but culture and adab, etiquettes, manners, ethics. ولولا المربي لما عرفت. And if it wasn't for the person who taught me, I would have not known the person who created me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says regarding Prophet Ismail, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ. Ibrahim, he would take his son Ismail wherever he'd go. He would teach him by example. بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ. He would always be with him. And look at Luqman. The Quran gives us a fine example of a man who was not even a prophet, but he was wise. And part of his wisdom is that he sat and he taught his child. وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ يَا بُنَيَّ لَا تُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّ الشِّرْكَ لَظُلْمٌ عَظِيمٌ. Luqman would sit with his child and he'd teach him and he'd admonish him that, my son, don't take a partner with Allah. For taking a partner with Allah is a great oppression. We have to sit with our children. Today, unfortunately, because of these smartphones and because of technology, you see families, they sit together. They're supposedly together, but the husband, he's on his phone. The wife is on her phone. The children are on TikTok. And everyone is on their gadgets. They're on these gadgets. If you see pictures, I say this all the time, look at family photos from 20 years ago. Everyone's looking in the camera. Everyone's smiling. Everyone's happy because we would sit, we'd talk, we'd discuss. Today, can you even get people to look in the camera? No. You'll have at least one person looking in their phone. They don't even look in the camera. We supposedly sit as a family, but we're not sitting. We're sitting, but everyone's calm. Everyone's quiet. We don't even talk because everyone's on their phone. No, we have to sit with our children. Talk to them. The hadith says, لَجُلُوسُ أَحَدُكُمْ مَعَ عِيَالِهِ سَاعَةً أفضل من عبادة أحدكم في مسجد هذا. Rasulullah says that when you sit with your family for 1 hour is worthier, is more valuable than worshipping in my mosque, Al-Masjid al-Nabawi in Medina. Imagine, just by sitting with your family, with your children, and speaking to them for 1 hour is more valuable in the eyes of Allah than praying in Al-Masjid al-Nabawi. The place where people will spend thousands of dollars just to visit and pray in, but you can earn that thawab by sitting with your children, by sitting with your family, talking to them, discussing them. My son, what are your challenges? What are your challenges in school? What are your challenges at work? Let's get to know our family. You know, I heard this joke a lot from a lot of people during COVID. You know, when people sat at home, they didn't go to school, they didn't go to work. I heard a lot of people said, you know, I discovered my family. I got to know my wife. I got to know my husband. I got to know my children. And it was so sad that it took a virus to get us to get to know one another. For a husband to discover his wife and a wife to discover her husband and sit at home and talk and socialize. We don't do this anymore. This is dangerous, my dear friends. Like I said, here in America, you could easily get drifted towards materialism, business. At the end of the day, this is the land of opportunity. You can start from scratch and you could build an empire. You could make billions. But what good are those billions if I lose my son or daughter? You have to be very careful. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Youth, my dear friends, were always in the front lines. They were always there to do good in the path of Allah. If you read about the lives of the prophets, you will see that their closest followers were the youth. They were rejected by the elders, but they were accepted by the youth. Nuh alayhi salam. Nuh, he had some followers. He wasn't by himself on the ship, on the ark. But who was with him? Youth. The Quran says, فَقَالَ الْمَلَأُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ قَوْمِهِ مَا نَرَاكَ إِلَّا بَشَرًا مِثْلَنَا وَمَا نَرَاكَ اتَّبَعَكَ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ هُمْ أَرَاذِلُنَا بَادِيُ الرَّأْيِ. They told him, Nuh's people, they told him that, Ya Nuh, we see that only youngsters follow you. They thought that this was something bad, but this was something very good, that it was the youngsters that followed Nuh. It was the elders that rejected him, but it was the youth that opened their hearts to Nuh alayhi salam. As for Musa, the Quran says, فَمَا آمَنَ لِمُوسَى إِلَّا ذُرِّيَّةٌ مِّن قَوْمِهِ. Dhurriya, according to ulama of tafsir, are the youth. Musa, those who truly believed in him, were the youth, not the elders. The elders, as soon as Musa disappeared, they started worshipping the calf, but not the youth. Ahlulbayt, Ahlul Kahf, we already talked about. إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ وَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى. As for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he would tell his companions, he says, أُوصِيكُمْ بِالشُّبَّانِ خَيْرًا. I tell you to take care of the youth. Why? فَإِنَّهُمْ أَرَقُّ أَفْئِدَةً. Because they are emotional. They have soft hearts. إن الله بعثني بشيرا ونذيرا فحالفني الشبان وخالفني الشيوخ. The Prophet says that Allah sent me to everyone, but it was the elders, it was the old people from Quraysh that rejected me, but it was the youth that accepted me. And proof of that is that when Quraysh, they came to Abu Talib, the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they told him that, Ya Abu Talib, what is your nephew doing? He's corrupting our youth. He's targeting our youth. He's brainwashing our youth. You see, they saw that Rasulullah was very dangerous because he attracted the youth. They told him, إِنَّ ابْنَ أَخِيكَ سَبَّ آلِهَتَنَا وَسَفَّهَ أَحْلَامَنَا وَأَفْسَدَ شُبَّانَنَا. He corrupted our youth. He went towards our youth. And indeed, Rasulullah targeted the youth. And it was the youth that accepted him. People like Mus'ab ibn Umair. Mus'ab ibn Umair was one of the good Sahaba who accepted Islam. But his parents told him that if you accept Islam, we will strip you from your inheritance. You won't own anything. He said, that's fine. That's fine. I don't need to own anything. And he accepted Islam. Amongst the youth with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa was Ammar ibn Yasir. So many youth. And the head of those youth was Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali ibn Abi Talib was a youth. He was young, but a follower of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa wasallam. We come to Karbala. We see that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he came out from Medina to Mecca and then towards Kufa, but of course he couldn't arrive to Kufa, he came to Karbala. Who surrounded Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Who surrounded him? Was it not the youth? Was it not Ali al-Akbar and al-Qasim and the brothers of al-Qasim? Was it not Abu al-Fadl Abbas? Abu al-Fadl Abbas was a youth, my dear friends. He hadn't reached 30. He hadn't even reached 30. He was maybe 30, 32 years old. You know, when we think of Abu al-Fadl Abbas, we think of a man in his 60s, an old man. No. Abu al-Fadl Abbas was 30, 32. He was a youth in the prime of his age. Yet he was willing to offer all that he had for Islam. His 2 hands, his 2 eyes. If Abu al-Fadl Abbas had 20 more hands, he'd offer each of those 20. And if he had 20 eyes, he would offer each and every single one of them for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And he's the one that said, Wallahi in qata'tumu yamini, inni uhami abadan an dini. These were the youth of Karbala that fought out of protection for their faith, for their Islam. Now, my dear friends, let's go towards Karbala on a night like this. This is the night of Arba'een. There's millions in Karbala tonight. They're commemorating, they're next to the shrine of Imam Hussein and we wish that we were with them. And we are with them. Our hearts are with them. Physically, we are here. But our hearts were with them. How did this happen? On the day of Arba'een, Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari arrived to the city of Karbala. Jabir, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَنْ Jabir. Jabir was a close companion to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a beloved companion to Rasulullah. Jabir was old, was an old man, one of the oldest of the companions of Rasulullah. Jabir had witnessed over 7 ma'soomeen, from Rasulullah to Al-Imam al-Baqir. What an honor. What an honor. And Rasulullah had told Jabir that you will see one of my children and his name is my name. Give him my salam. And he met Al-Imam al-Muhammad al-Baqir. And when he saw Al-Imam al-Baqir, he told him that your grandfather sends his salams upon you. Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Awfi, he told Atiyah that allow me to go in the Euphrates. Let me perform ghusl. He performed ghusl al-ziyarah in the river of Euphrates, and then he put on his nicest clothing. And he put on perfume or cologne. And then he said, take me towards the grave. Jabir could not see. So he had to be guided to the grave of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. قال المسني. He told him, we have arrived to the grave of Abi Abdullah. He said, المسني, let me touch the grave. Jabir sat on the ground. He grabbed the sand of the grave of Imam Hussein. He smelt it. And then 3 times he said, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. He kept on shouting, Ya Hussein. And then he said, Habibun la yujib habiba. A beloved that does not answer the one he loves. وأنى لك بالجواب وقد شطحت أوداجك على أثباجك وفرق بين بدنك ورأسك. And how can you answer me, my master, when they have separated between your head and your body? فأشهد أنك ابن النبيين وابن سيد المؤمنين وابن حليف التقوى وسليل الهدى وخامس أصحاب الكساء وابن سيد النقباء وابن فاطمة سيدة النساء. وما لك لا تكون هكذا وقد غذتك كف سيد المرسلين وربيت في حجر المتقين ورضعت من ثدي الإيمان وفطمت بالإسلام فطبت حيا وطبت ميتا، غير أن قلوب المؤمنين غير راضية لفراقك ولا شاكة في الخيرة لك، فعليك سلام الله ورضوانه. Jabir ibn Abdullah kept on saying his peace and salam upon Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and then he turned towards the companions of Imam Hussein and he said his salams upon them as well, and then he said, وَالَّذِي بَعَثَ مُحَمَّدًا بِالْحَقِّ لَقَدْ شَارَكْنَاكُمْ فِيمَا دَخَلْتُمْ فِيهِ. I swear by what Muhammad was sent with, I participated in what you have done. Atiyah, he said, Ya Jabir, how? How do you say that we participated in what he's done? وَكَيْفَ وَلَمْ نَهْبِطْ وَادِيًا وَلَمْ نَعْنُ جَبَلًا وَلَمْ نَضْرِبْ بِسَيْفٍ وَالْقَوْمُ قَدْ فُرِّقَ بَيْنَ رؤوسهم وأبدانهم وأوتمت أولادهم وأرملت الأزواج. How, Ya Jabir, do you say that we participated in what they did? These people, their heads were severed from their bodies and their children became orphans. Jabir answered, Ya Atiyya, سمعت حبيبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يقول من أحب قوما حشر معهم. He who loves a group, he will be resurrected by them. Jabir ibn Abdullah kept on crying and wailing on the grave of Abi Abdullah. All of a sudden, Atiyya al-Awfi, he said, Ya Jabir, I see some darkness coming from Al-Sham. Maybe it's the army of Ibn Ziyad. Jabir told him, go and see who it is. If it is my master al-Imam Zayn al-Abidin, then you are free for the sake of Allah. And if it's Ibn Ziyad and his army, will go and we hide. Atiyah went. Moments later he came back. He said, Ya Jabir, get up and welcome your master al-Imam Zayn al-Abidin. Jabir went to al-Imam. When he said, my master, I am Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. Imam Zayn al-Abidin said, أأنت جابر؟ نعم سيدي. يا جابر, ها هنا قتل أبي, ها هنا قتل الأصحاب, ها هنا سبيت النساء. Ya Jabir, it was here that my father was beheaded. It was here that our men were beheaded. It was here that our women were taken captives. The women and children, they come. They enter the city of Karbala, each one going to her grave. Each one going to her grave. Layla goes to the grave of Ali al-Akbar. Al-Ramla goes to the grave of Al-Qasim. And Al-Rabab goes to the grave of Abdullah. And Al-Sayyidah Zainab comes to the grave of her brother, Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. خويا أنا جيتك وجبت الراس وياي من أنا جيتك وجبت الراس وياي من السبي وكانت بيح سلواي خويا 40 ليلة فارقيتك بوسط القبر يا ابن أمي لقيتك جينا وعلى قبرك قعدنا ونخيناك يا عزنا وضمدنا هاي المحامل قوم ردنا يا الأرض المدينة وطن جدنا Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, she would go from grave to grave. One moment at the grave of Ali al-Akbar, another moment at the grave of Al-Qasim, another moment at the graves of her two sons, Aun wa Muhammad. And then she got up, she started looking for another grave, looking right and left. Imam Zain al-Abidin said, Amma, I know which grave you're looking for. That grave is not here, that grave is next to the river. Let's go together to the grave of Abil Fadl al-Abbas. He held her hand and they walked together to the grave of Abbas. يا نازلين بكربلاء هل عندكم خبر بقتلانا وما أعلامها ما حال جثة ميت في أرضكم بقيت ثلاثا لا يزار مقامها. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Raise your hands in dua. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العلي الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا هما إلا فرجته، ولا عيبا إلا سترته، ولا خوفا إلا آمنته، ولا رزقا إلا بسطته، ولا شملا إلا جمعته، ولا مرضا إلا شفيته، ولا غائبا إلا حفظته وأدنيته، ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة لك فيها رضا ولنا فيها صلاح إلا قضيتها ويسرتها يا أرحم الراحمين. Tomorrow, my dear brothers and sisters, from 2 to 4, there will be an Arba'een procession. If you could not make it to Karbala and you could not walk from Najaf to Karbala, here's an experience, here's an opportunity to do something at least similar to that procession. There will be a lot of brothers and sisters from this community walking tomorrow for the first Arba'een procession here, I believe. Try to participate. And it's on a weekend, it's on Saturday. Those of you that can participate, it's not going to take too long. Everyone will participate. Imagine yourself being in Karbala. And it's the intention that counts. The intention that counts. May Allah reward you for every step that you take in this procession for the sake of Imam Hussein. ولأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات نقرأ سورة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.